Hello everybody, this is Ashley Garner with Ashley B. Garner and Associates Real Estate Professionals at Intracoastal Realty in Wilmington, North Carolina. Today we're going to talk about one of the things that you're going to have to write a check for if you're a buyer of a house. And like we talked before, even if you're doing 100% financing, there are things that you're going to have to actually write a check for. So you need cash to do this transaction. There are two of these things that you have to write a check for. One is due diligence fee, and one is earnest money deposit. Today we're going to talk about due diligence fee, what it is, what it's for, and do you ever get this money back. Sellers, pay attention, because sellers, you're going to be the ones receiving this money, and so we'll talk about that in a minute. But so when you put a house under contract, you've got two checks to write. One is the due diligence fee and one is the earnest money deposit. In North Carolina, most of the time you've got 5 days after the contract's effective to submit this check. So the due diligence fee is normally a smaller amount of money. Sometimes we've seen it even be zero. But the purpose of this is for the buyer to compensate the seller for taking the house off the market during the due diligence period. The due diligence period is a negotiable period of time, but what it is allows the buyer to do all their inspections, obtain their financing, have the house appraised. Anything that's a risk or that would cause the buyer not to want to move forward with the transaction, you need to do all that in the due diligence period. So say you just you turn up some mold, or the house doesn't appraise, or you get transferred to another job out of town. These are all reasons you may not want to move forward with the purchase of the house. You need to find all that out during the due diligence period, and then you can terminate before the due diligence date, and then you get your earnest money back. The due diligence fee pays for that period of time, and you never get the due diligence fee back. You're going to write that directly to the seller, and the seller keeps that. Now it'll go towards the purchase price if you buy the house, but you never get it back if you terminate. Now after the due diligence date, then the earnest money is at risk, and we'll talk about that at another time. Due diligence is non-refundable, goes towards the purchase price, and it's for your right to inspect. So now, if you're a buyer, you want the lowest due diligence fee and the longest due diligence period, right? Because you want as much time as you can to do all your stuff, and you want to pay as little money as possible for that privilege. If you're the seller, you want high due diligence fee and you want a short due diligence period, because the seller, as the seller, you want to tie the buyer into the deal. You want them to have a lot of skin in the game so they think twice before terminating. And you want them to hurry up and determine this, so that if they're going to terminate, we want to know now rather than 2 months from now. Okay, so that's important. There's some market factors that affect things like due diligence fee, and basically it's competition. If it's a buyer's market, meaning that there's too much inventory, that prices are going down or they're stagnant, and there are fewer buyers than there are homes for sale, well then the buyer's kind of in the driver's seat here. So the buyer can say, I'll give you zero due diligence fee. Now I've got no skin in the game, I can terminate for any reason up to this period without losing anything. And we saw a lot of that. Now as the market's becoming more healthy and shifting towards a seller's market, there's more competition for the same house. So the buyers are having to step up their game a little bit more and having to offer more due diligence money to convince the seller to say, okay, I'll take my house off the market because I feel like the buyer's committed to this deal because they've given me a pretty good due diligence fee. So you see that there's a lot of things that play in, but the point is you need to be aware that you're going to have to write checks if you're the buyer right when you sign a contract. And until next time, this is Ashley.